Okay, we're doing contracting 101. We're your hosts. I'm Lexi. I'm at Leopard. I'm on the Leopard team. Jade, you can introduce yourself.
I'm Jade. I am contracting right now, hanging out.
Love it. Wow.
Woo woo.
Okay, you want to get into why we were doing this talk maybe a little bit and what we want to cover, and then I'll go to my story.
Sure. So I think part of this was inspired by peers reaching out to me and being like, "Hey, could we talk about contracting? I see that you have done some." And I feel like what we talked about and just in general, like getting laid off sucks. And the environment that we are interviewing is not the most welcoming and lovely, and it sucks to continue to interview. And full-time is stressful. I love this last line of fuck the system, go into the woods. I'm going for a 3-week trip to Europe, and I can do that because I'm not fully employed. Pros of contracting. So you'll notice we don't have a cons of contracting slide.
Yeah, we removed that.
Because the reality is, like, the world will tell you the cons, but the pros are, like, important to highlight. That you have more control of your schedule. You can work only Mondays or only Tuesdays if you choose. You have a lot of control about, like, how much you charge based on the project, based on what your life looks like around that time, and you can take breaks, and that's cool. There is a lot of upside because, like, there's not an arbitrary system of how to, like, get promoted. You can just be like, I'm a hustler, and like my contracting rates are going up.
Yeah. We made like almost for an agenda. I probably should put the agenda first, actually, now that I'm saying this, but I think that you covered everything, right? It's like we both kind of gotten into this, maybe more of an accident because like the market felt maybe like we didn't want to go back into it. For me, that was a few years ago, before Leopard actually, I guess that's part of my story, but Leopard started as Jordan and I taking contract work, and Jade, I think, has a good insight onto like, wait, this is a life that you can choose that like maybe could end up better. Like, wouldn't that be nice, right? And there's a lot for us all to learn. Like, starting from scratch on anything new is hard. There's a lot of upsides and there's a lot of different ways to make it work. And there are peers in this network if you are looking for people to like bounce ideas off of. I personally have my own group of people, not who do work for software engineering, but who do like certain functional things, right? Like I have a LinkedIn group that like all tries to get their posts to go viral, and we like learn a lot from doing certain things. And then we all like take each other's best practices and tools and stuff like that. So I would say if you're thinking about contracting, this is an informal start to hopefully have people to talk to about it. If we are finding a lot of interest, we'll make its own channel or like mini group or something like that. But so lots of pros, don't need to talk about the cons. Obviously, you know, we know them. Or maybe if you don't worry about it, because the whole point is that this is something we can do. Where's your this is one I never like. There was a slide we had some more. Yeah, there we go. Just jumping ahead, right? So it can feel really out of control, right? When you don't have a job and you don't have a good angle, or like the market is slowing down. And so hopefully this just like empowers people. If you're here or if you're watching this, like there's other ways. And did I miss anything? I kind of think my story gets into that, Jade, but was there anything else you want to add before I get into my learnings and hot takes?
You go.
Okay. That's our agenda. Jade's got her own as she's going to next. That's why I threw her in first. we're going to talk about what should I charge. We're going to talk about getting paid and getting clients. Again, we are not really going to be world experts on these. I'm going to say I'm decent at this, not to brag, but so not in the way that we all need. Exactly. It's kind of like a side angle, but happy to talk more about any of these. Keep the conversation going. Okay. And hopefully everybody's appreciating all the money emojis that we put in here to get the spirit. Okay. All right. I'm going to go first. Hi. So yeah, I'm Lexi. Those of you who don't know, Leopard started as a bit of a pivot / way to pay my bills and Jordan's bills when we both didn't want to go back into a full-time job. I had been working on a mental health startup called Centered for like almost 2 years by myself, didn't make any money, was feeling pretty broke. Jordan, I think she like left and was writing a novel or something really cool, like on the beach. So she had some better story than, I mean, they're both good stories, but so she needed some contract work. So we both came together. People had always like asked me, oh, can you help me find software engineers? Because what have you done in the past? Never been a recruiter in my life, like in a formal capacity. It was like, why are you asking me this? I'm a mental health founder. And then I said like, well, maybe this is a fun way to pay the bills and I can work with my friend. Great. This could be even better as long as I don't ever have to go have a boss again. And also I wonder if there's a way we can do this where we don't burn out. Like, you know, start as this like bootstrapped mission driven company. It was like, is there work we can do to pay our bills and not burn out? And how cool would it be if we got to work with women and non-binary engineers? How cool would it be if we didn't have to get paid monthly and only got paid if we did our jobs well, so we didn't owe any time to anyone or all sorts of things like that. But these were the initial goals. You probably can somewhat feel it when you work with stuff in our Slack. Hopefully it's like, we just don't like, we don't believe, you know, this like, we don't work in an emergency room, we work in marketing thing, right? Like, I think you hopefully feel it, but we get to have a lot more. We design it around that, not around making money, not around being a unicorn. And it's really, really nice alternative. And I recommend it all the time. So lots more to talk about there. I do think contracting is where it starts, right? We were lucky. We found a good niche. It was also 2021. It was like the hottest market in the world. We had prior experience saying it. Whole other talk on that, but like that turns out prior experience is really helpful. So look for that if you can. But yeah, so we found a good niche. We started like doing contract work. We essentially like copied existing models. So we did not invent a new product. We said like, we are exactly like a recruiting agency, except we're focused on women and non-binary candidates. Or we price exactly the same as all the other agencies and all the other platforms and all of those things. And we have to figure out how that translates here. But I think the point is like not reinventing the wheel was actually extremely effective. It means we charge more than we would have thought. And so the more you can point to like market standard versus like, oh, I'm worth $1 million an hour, like it's the easiest way to negotiate, in my opinion. Yeah, we were talking about this. Like I didn't put the numbers in here. And again, we're not sharing this super widely, but when we found this niche, we had a couple different products. We had for companies, right? For candidates, we knew it was always going to be free. I mean, there's probably a world in the future where people can like pay to go to certain events or something. But for the most part, we were like, keep it free for candidates, charge companies. But there were different established models. And so some of them were more popular at different times. We had $100,000 of revenue every month on a, I know it was like, we were pretty big in 2021, 22, but we had $100,000 worth of contract work that was upfront and no revenue coming, or we had some revenue, but we were not making as much money from only placing people. And then like in year 2022, that completely flipped. And so we lost all that contract revenue or all that upfront revenue and made it back another way. The point being, business model evolves. You do different things. You have to kind of keep a pulse on the market. It's like just because it worked 1 year doesn't mean it's going to work another year. And so, but it's nice, right? It's not like, oh my God, we have to like orient the entire team around this new model. It's just like you, or if you're doing it with a friend, like you're like, hey, what else can I try? Like, what does this pricing work better? Should I do it by project or by month? And Jade's gonna have more thoughts on that. Yeah, last thing from my experience was just like do stuff that compounds. Jade, I'm curious, like, what got you excited about this? Was there something you want to add here, or should I just talk about what that meant for me and what that's meant for us?
In terms of the business model evolving? Or...
No, compounds. This fine.
You go.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, sure. So, okay. So, we have a rule when we picked up contracts, and again, it's not a perfect match, in terms of the type of contract work. But we tried to do stuff that added to our, overall strength and like positioning in the market. So, for example, like we did a lot of projects, like sourcing projects, where someone would be like, "Can you help me with this like staff machine learning search, and I need them to be in the Bay Area?" And we'd be like, okay, and we're going to work with the sourcer, do all this research to find companies that maybe like, find candidates and companies and things like that. But we only picked searches that we thought would like enrich our data later or like add to our reputation. Turned out when we did remote full stack roles, full stack back and front end, we were more successful. So we picked searches where we'd done stuff like that before, so we could be more successful the next time we did it. So we tried to like look for things that built our reputation, look for things that we could like use in the future. So we did, like we would do a tech lead search and then do another one in 2 months. And there was a lot of similarities to it, right? So there was like these things that we could like add to our learning as an organization and like how we set it up. Organization. I mean, it was me and Jordan, and then we were adding additional contractors to our team over time, but I'm like, our organization. But still, no, actually, we are a real organization at this point because we were just looking for ways to do stuff that people wanted. Oh, now to my hot takes. This is my entire learning from my entire career, which is figuring out what people wanted to pay for was everything. What did people want? How could we deliver it? And then like make something around that. What doesn't work is like coming up with pricing or offerings in a vacuum and not talking to customers about their needs. For me, I still do it all the time. Hazel's probably like laughing. We do it all the time. We start projects because we think they're a good idea, and then we talk to customers and it doesn't solve a problem for them, and we go back to square one. Whenever you talk to customers and get a sense of what they actually want, and customers, Jade has some ideas for customers, but customers don't have to be a million miles away. They can be your friends. When you talk to customers and they say, oh yeah, that's something I really need help with, I would pay for that, you start to get on the right track. If you don't do that, you usually are stuck. Okay, back to my two more hot takes. Also, I'm going to pause off this, so gather your questions in your brain, and then we'll go to Jade. Okay, these two really go back to like the earlier days of contracting. This one, it's just like forever and ever and ever. Leopard could be 1,000-person company or 10,000-person company, and I'm still gonna like get my butt kicked on this. And I think that's good. It's just a reminder that you're never too big to like talk to customers and understand what they're looking for, what they want, and positioning yourself based on the stuff they look for. Okay, hourly rate is not worth optimizing for, and making enough to survive is fine to start. Back to our own experience. We just needed enough to pay our bills, and we have a framework for this. We did not set out to be the biggest thing ever off the bat, and because of that, it's okay to just like get started. When I say these two, it's like just get started. You don't have to optimize the hourly rate right away. You don't have to pick the highest hourly rate and reject people who don't pay your highest hourly rate. It's okay to experiment and charge too low and then fix it on the next one, right? Like just getting in there, figuring out how to get clients, figuring out how to get work, figuring out how to get regular work. These are the lessons when you're getting started that have to be like, you have to start building the muscle for it. And so these things just, it's just not worth too much brain energy in terms of optimizing. It's just about getting in the door and getting started. Jay, did you have anything to add to these two? I know we have more on this. And then I want to pause and see if anyone has questions, and then Jade's going to.
I'm pretty sure we don't have this in another slide, but I think like it's worth noting the like picking projects also depend of like projects that you love, and like we might have that on another slide, but just like
it's okay.
Being, I think, and also like I think you can price low and like figure it out and figure out like, oh, I like this type of project or this type of model, like model of pricing or whatever, and like sort of that into your next thing. Yeah, those are my notes.
Okay.
Questions?
Any questions? Anyone? Thoughts?
Not yet. I'm taking notes.
Is this format okay? Anything confusing? It's working. Support me. Okay, thank you. Beautiful. Okay, great. So I am going to hand it over to Jade. Let me know when to scroll.
Sweet. Yeah, a little bit of background about me. I did symbolic systems, which is like computer science, psychology, and some other stuff. So I feel like the multidisciplinary vibes are strong within me. And yeah, got laid off and was interviewing and taking some breaks and mentoring people, and have already like had a certification to be a life coach and was doing some of that. And then a friend reached out about contracting and was like, you know, that would be great to get paid and not just be interviewing, and sort of in going in a lot of different directions. And yay, psych. We love psychology. And yeah, I think I originally was like, oh, like this is a way to not feel like I'm unemployed, and also to not be unemployed. And I actually had like family be like, you're not unemployed, you're contracting. And I was like, whoa, radical. I still felt like I was unemployed. Yeah, some learnings that I have found is like, follow what excites you, like whether that be the technology or the people or the projects or the company, like figure out where you're excited, and like it'll help you to be motivated to do the project really, really well. And like ultimately, like doing the projects that you choose well will get you more projects that you also like, that you will do well. And yeah, I think that like another thing that I learned pretty early on is like scoping projects and being like really clear about what is entailed and like what is done to that is really important. Because like in sort of a brainstorming phase, you can say all of the things that are possible, but like making sure that the client understands it is within the scope and what is outside of the scope, and like being really clear with them so that they're not upset and you're not feeling burnt out by like, I guess I agreed to all of this, or I agreed to 10 feedback cycles, I guess, like, and then you are doing it for a really long time. Do what you love, because I think similar to just like what you like and is motivating, you'll do really well. And also sleep, because sleep is important. We love not being unemployed if you're contracting. I also think it's helpful. I think when I started, I got very stressed out about money, and I was like, if I take this, it's taking away time from interviewing or doing other things that I could be doing to make money. And then I had this moment where a coach told me, like, brainstorm 20 ways to make money. Like, think of all the ways that you can make money. And like, that was very helpful to me to be like, oh, I can deprioritize interviewing and like, I'm still gonna be able to buy food and like live somewhere, and it's gonna be fine. So I think that's helpful.
Like that brainstorm. And I feel like honestly, this came out of me, or like my contract work too. It came out of me being like, oh, maybe I can get people to pay $25 a month on this mental health product. And then I was like, it's pretty hard. It feels that way. Like, doesn't mean it's not true, but I bet if I do this other thing that I know how to do and I'm good at and like I like and like doesn't feel like work and I can pay my bills, like wouldn't that be cool? And I think it's actually kind of focusing. Like it helps you figure out what people would want to hire you for as well.
Yeah. And I think it also brings in the, I don't know what the name for it is, but like there's like 3 or 4 concentric circles where it's like a Venn diagram, and it's like what you like to do, what you're good at, what people will pay you for, and what the world needs. And like in the middle is what you should be focusing on. And like maybe you're focusing in different zones, and like moving towards the middle is going to make you happiest.
Yeah. It's so true. And then it's always like I saw some Y Combinator video like this too. It's like, what are the things that you know to do and you like doing, but are also hard for a lot of other people to do? Like, there's a lot of startups that people start like when they're in college, right? And they all start like the same one. They said like student online or like, campus like networking or community or something, right? Like, and they all start it, and it's like, what makes you qualified to do that? Not much besides making it. Whereas if you're like really into some specific part of infrastructure work and then you've done it before and people want to hire you for that, or like you went and built a product at some point, you're like in a space that there's a lot of qualified people to solve problems. There was sort of their point. And it's like, oh, interesting. Because if I'm one of the few people who can do it, maybe I can charge a lot for that. Sweet. Nice. Go me. Go money. We love money.
Woo-woo.
Okay. Anything else to add to your hot takes, or should we get into what should I charge? Anybody have questions, comments, thoughts? Can you tell us if we're on the right track? Thank you. Thank you. Oh, wow.
Ooh.
I have a question, but I can hold it.
No, go.
I guess in terms of like approaching contracting, do you think it's better to, or maybe not better or worse, but I'm curious of thoughts on like being a generalist versus being a specialist.
Ooh.
And this is speaking as someone who is more of a generalist engineer. I'm curious if it would be more to my prerogative of landing gigs if I was presented a more focused or specialist front. Yeah.
I can share my notes, Jade, but which one do you think off the bat?
I think that it will get you different things. I think a very specific niche is helpful. Like, I think that Lexi has a slide at the end, or maybe took it out, of someone who like is just Airtable. Yeah. Or like the Airtable expert. And like they do that really well. And like that gets them a lot of that type of thing of work. But I also think there are like friends and family. I think I have not really niched. I haven't really picked a niche, and like I feel like there's friends that are like, oh, like, can you help me with your website? And I'm like, yes, I would love to help you with your website, and I will learn along the way with you and how that entails. And like my first contracting thing that I'm still like doing follow-up work for is related to chatbots. And like I had no experience. I mean, I had a tiny bit of experience from college, but like not anything that was up to date or modern. And like watched like probably 10 hours of YouTube videos about chatbots and then built this chatbot for a company and was like, cool. So I lead
I think
generalist.
it's both. I
Yeah.
think it's both. I think that there's a difference in the world of contracting, in my opinion, between like specialist doesn't mean specialist mindset. It means like generalist mindset with a niche, right? And like I really liked what I went back to your slide, Jade, about like, right? Like I think people like when someone else knows what they're doing and someone else is excited. And that's why I picked the Airtable guy as a crazy example, because he clearly like loves what he does. And he's like so aggro about it that like I trust that he's gonna figure this out, right? Like on a problem that I don't understand. I say this because like we didn't really hire this guy ultimately. He was our like first point of contract hiring. We started doing our Airtable build out. We kind of figured out from there what we needed, but it was very convincing, like that he knew everything about this specific thing we were trying to do. So we trusted, even if we didn't know him, that he was probably going to figure it out. Now, I wouldn't call him a specialist. I feel like to get to this, you have to be sort of generalist. Like you have to be a generalist problem solver. But then you're like positioning your niche, right? So for us, it's like our niche is like 90% of our competitors weren't very good at this. And so by actually saying we focused on it, we got clients that generalists couldn't get.
Mm.
That said, I wouldn't hire a pure specialist who couldn't think generalist as the CEO of an early stage startup who hires contractors. I've done so many different Upwork trials that didn't really work out. It was like I hired a like content marketing person. She couldn't really think generally across what we were trying to do, so she like gave us two specialists of a take too early, and like just couldn't really get the big picture. It didn't really work. So I hope that answers your question. Both ish. I wouldn't hire a specialist or like him.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate all of these notes.
The last thing here though is that there's this like specialist, there's this, concept of founding engineer, right? And I think that a lot of people, it's funny, they don't actually they don't even use the term when they come to Leopard, like clients, but they say people who have experience building from 0 to 1, people who have experience getting something up from scratch. They say this stuff all the time. We're like, oh, founding engineer. And they're like, sure, okay, that is what I meant. And so I think that's a special niche. That's a niche, right? It's like I work with early stage startups, I help them XYZ get off the ground, whereas some people are more like I optimize existing systems type of thing.
Mhm.
I think that's a niche. Okay, you want to take this one, Jake?
Sure. I think you have.
Oh yeah, this is sort of.
You should maybe take this one just because.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can. Okay, I'll take this one, but you can talk about the taxes, and you talk about how you're thinking about this, and I'll do the rest. Okay. So, but did we talk about this? Did I tell you this, or like who? Is this my thing?
You told me the break-even number, and I told Pierce, and I was like,
Okay.
It's just so helpful for like. Yeah.
That's what I thought. So I had this conversation a lot of times, like it's really just with friends, and they're like, I want to leave my job, or I'm not sure, or I left my job and I'm figuring out what to do. Like, how do I even at contract work, or like do something else? Like, and the idea of making your trying to back into your old salary is like brutal, right? You're usually not going to get there right away. You might get there eventually, but at the beginning, to back in, doing the math and being like, okay, to make what I made before, I have to get this much per month. I personally find it very demoralizing. Like, I don't think it's good juju to get started. And so I always tell people this, find your break even number. And so, like, tell me if I'm saying it the way that I said it to you. It's like, how much do you need to pay your bills? Okay. Like, no, not how much do I need to make to feel successful? Not how much do I need to make to like feel happy sort of works, right? Like, I think it's somewhere in between there, right? It's like to survive and like to not feel like you're wasting your time away. And it's usually lower than people, right? Especially if you don't think about hourly rate. You just think about the total number of hours not the total number of hours. You think about, like, let's say you need to make $3,000 a month or $5,000. It's usually like somewhere in. That's it, right? All you have to do is back into some amount of hours where people will ultimately pay you that much per month, and you won. You're good. You don't have to think past that. And I think that reframe is just more doable. Like, you're more likely to actually maybe hit it and get confidence that you can hit it and optimize it and then keep going and then raise your rates and do all that. But I just think it's like a reasonable target. It means you can be more flexible about your hourly rate. As long as you hit your target, you won. It's the opposite of how venture-backed tech companies feel, where the goal is always too high and you never hit it. Maybe you guys hit it in your past. I never hit it, but it's like, what is an actual target that I can actually hit? Hooray, I hit it. Anything to add on that?
I think if this is like, I think the break-even number doesn't even have to include like, I'm going to put money aside to save.
Exactly.
Like, you can.
Low bar, please.
I think like you can start it at like, what is rent plus food and any other bills that you have to pay, and then like be like, anything above that is savings and gravy and like will be great, but like, what is going to make me feel like I'm not hemorrhaging cash
Exactly.
and dipping way into my savings? Like, what's just going to be like, we could coast at this level and it's going to be okay.
Yeah. What resonates with you so hard about this one? Like, why did it stick with you so much?
I think that it can feel initially like, I think it's like a mindset shift around like what you're aiming for that feels more reasonable. And like, I think for me, the energy that I bring to it is just better because I am excited about hitting my break even number versus like overwhelmed by a larger number that like, maybe I'll get there, but like, I also have the option to continue to interview or to figure out different ways to make money and get there in different ways. And like, I think the main realization was like, I can't continue to hemorrhage money at the rate that I am.
Yeah.
And so like, what's going to get me closer to not doing that?
Totally. Yeah. Does this resonate with people? No, I just hope we're explaining it right. I think we are. Is this track? Is this okay? Yeah. Can everybody like unmute themselves for a second? Give a quick like gut check before we keep going.
Yeah, I think that's really helpful. The idea of it being a different mindset that you kind of adopt.
Yeah.
That Jade phrased it really well. I'm not remembering like the exact words now, which I wanted to write it down. But yeah,
The energy?
Yeah, the energy of it is different and kind of allows you to bring bring your excitement easier, because you're less focused on like attaining some goal that's like extremely difficult to hit, and more on like focus on things that you are more confident you can accomplish, and then like, you know, everything on top of that is like, you know, all of the things that you're learning, and then any extra money that you get, it's like additional things that make you feel good, but you're confident that you can hit that baseline kind of thing.
Totally. It's also, for me personally, very freeing. It's like, you know, with Leopard, we have goals of like what we want to grow into as a company when we think we should be doing something better for our network or for clients. Like, we try to build from every time I'm trying to motivate myself around like make more money, like grow more, like be big money, blah, blah, blah. Like I get into the wrong place and I don't do very well. Like I don't execute very well. Like I don't find monetary goals motivating. I find like people goals motivating, like my own self-confidence and like paying bills, like going under, like having money to put away for the future is a great luxury. But like, you know, we can almost like deprogram this like tech. It's like, it's hard because all companies we ever worked at were the opposite of this. They don't care about break even, right? They care about if it's not growing super, super fast, it doesn't matter. And like, screw that. You can just pay your bills. And that is fantastic, it seems. And by the way, by taking the pressure off of ourselves, Jordan and I did more good work than we ever could have ever possibly did, because we were relaxed and we weren't like feeling like we were going to die if we didn't grow a bajillion % every day, every month, every quarter. And so when we're relaxed, we like do the best work. So I think just like, I don't think we have to explain why like being able to pay for food is a revelation. But, you know, paying for food and shelter, but like, it's more about like, okay, like that's a huge success. If you can pay for your own, I'll go back to the where is this?
I'm a hustler.
It's beautifully put line.
The market will have ups and downs, but we are all hustlers.
Hustlers. I mean, it's the best thing ever, like not having to go back. It's like you're basically always free. You're always free. You can like go back in a day if you want to, if you get a job, or you can go back in 2 years and like it's all okay. So it's more in your control. Okay. Should I keep going here? Do you want to add to this second one?
Yeah, I think I can do the second one. I think like the main thing here is like you can like, I think about your break even number, think about what other people are charging for what you're doing, but also consider that like if you just do like your salary divided by 50 to like account for PTO and maybe insurance and other stuff, like you want to have it higher than you might initially think, and like having it higher will be helpful to like raise it from there. But I think to the next point, like don't sweat the hourly, like think daily, monthly, weekly. Like having a bigger time frame is easier to fill out larger numbers.
And then this one's like just sort of a version of, it's funny, like in some senses we're like going back and forth. We're like, surviving is awesome, but you can make more if you want to calculate these. And then we're like, but don't worry, surviving is awesome. And then we're like, surviving is perfect. Surviving is the goal or more. It's like surviving is it. Surviving is incredibly excellent. But as you kind of mess around with it, maybe you can get the math to go to a new number, right? But break even and then, ooh, can I like push this higher? But break even is, I think, still the goal. And then it's like, I'm a hustler. I'm out of the woods. My extras. Wow. Very professional presentation.
Yeah. I'm so glad this is recorded.
Yeah, I love having recordings that people watch of me. Okay.
You go.
Are these mine? Yeah. Okay. A couple more I'm going to run through quick. Okay. It's okay to ask about your budget. This one is just like, I learned, I never got trained in sales, but I worked with a bunch of people who were trained, including a head of sales that I worked with in the past. And it's like, they all learn to ask about budget. We're all so scared of that, but they're like, what is your budget for this project? And people answer and they tell you, and then you can use that and say, this is what I'm charging then. And they say, okay, like this is best practice in the industry. So just ask. It's a way to not have to negotiate. You say, what is your budget for this project? It sounds really low and you are depressed by how low that number is, then don't take it. But if you can say, okay, sounds good, and it's close enough towards on track to your break-even number, cool, sounds good, right? You don't have to price the highest at every given point off the bat. Just, don't take anything that's depressing. Don't take anything that's, you're like, well, what am I doing? But if it's not that and it's close enough to getting you closer to your break even, sounds good. Keep it like low friction. We do so much stuff at Leopard to like keep things low friction. Like, our contract, we used to have all this other cool stuff where we're like, we can ask to do back channel and blah, blah, blah. We learned to just like cut stuff that was going to get us red labeled or like red taped with finance or with the CEO. Like keeping it easy going is like, without being, obviously taking something that's a depressingly low amount, makes it easier to get the contract going and get it started. And yeah, that's this one, right? It's like, if it feels worth it, perfect. That is excellent. If it doesn't, don't do it. Yeah, and then this one, Jade, if you have anything to add, let me know. But the gist was just like, most of the time, like best practice in tech is that it's harder to get a client than it is to keep, or like once you have a client and like what a roster, it's like easier to bring them back for more work. So like I just had a client from like a year and a half ago message us and say, hey, we're ready to work with you again. And like when you have a bunch of those, that's great for filling up your time. And so like try to find ways to get your existing clients to give you more work instead of always having to go get new ones. Maybe that's obvious. But that is like a big portion of our recurring business every month is people who've already worked with us before. Anything to add on any of these?
I think one thing that I've thought about also is just like if it's a technology that you don't know, but like you're excited to learn, like I also take that into account.
Mm-hmm.
My floor might be lower for that kind of job because then it goes directly on my resume and I can say like, I have been paid to work with this technology.
Totally.
And like, I think that's helpful for people taking your knowledge seriously, and you're also getting paid to learn. So that's a big plus.
Yeah, it's that compounding one, right? It's like, does it help you tell more of a story later? Does it feel like you want to get better at that? Do you want a logo doing that? Right? Like we used to say like, oh, do we want to take on searches that are all like not all women and non-binary? And then we were like, it doesn't compound, right? It doesn't help us tell a story. And so we just don't do it. And that led to everything that we do, right? So as long as it like adds to the story in some way. We also take stuff for lower too that sounds fun or sounds like something we think we could be successful at, right? Like, sometimes we do product manager searches, really exactly what we would do, but we like it. And like the product managers are really fun. And like, so sometimes we just do it because we like it. And we have a chance of being successful. Not like we like it and they're never going to pay. And like, it's just going to be impossible. But okay, this is yours. We only have 5 minutes.
Oh no. How many more slides do we have?
We can do it. We can go. Okay. I don't
Yeah.
know
I think just thinking about the structure of how you're going to get paid, what motivates you, your time, your energy, and then like what the company wants in terms of, like, if they're going to pay you at the end of the project and that feels motivating, great. I don't feel motivated by getting half before because then I'm like, I've already been paid. This is great. So something to know about yourself and what you need. Let's go. Boogie on. Weeks or days is better than hourly. PayPal is easy to get paid through. I don't know about the
Both
invoicing.
are these fine too. Yeah, some people are like, oh, I don't know if I have the contract in place. You were saying that. You're like, oh, I don't have a contract yet. And I'm like, doesn't matter. Like, just don't worry about it. Just pay the way that they find it easy. If they tell you like you need to get paid through bill.com or Gusto or whatever, you just do what they say. Like, you don't have to like templatize it. And this one is just like that. It's like best practice that it's bad practice, but a lot of people like don't pay their invoices right away and like they wait or like they pay at the exact date. So like be prepared. You might have to like follow up and remind people to pay. Like hopefully they do, but yeah, they don't know. Okay, clients.
Friends and family are very helpful for telling that you are contracting. I sometimes message people after interviews with companies that I really like, but they're rejected me or wasn't a fit otherwise. Lexi wants to say that we don't need to do that to all of the Leopard companies because then they get a lot of people asking for that. I signed up for this website, but I didn't finish the application soon enough. So I'm blacklisted from this website, but I think that they're a good source of like high paying contracts. I like timed out on their application time. Calendly is great to make booking time with you easy. And it's really to just for interviews and meeting with potential people is really helpful.
Yeah. Hazel, we put all this like in a blog post too. Like, don't worry if you, I'll send the deck but we can just like all this down. So these guys, I've never used them. I'm happy to do like more of a deep dive in this if people are trying different sites. I don't know, maybe Upwork too. I'm going to build a competitor next year. So if you use Leopard contract marketplace, and you can use that in 2024. Okay, these ones.
Update your LinkedIn because that you are actively working as a software engineer, because it makes like other people, like recruiters will find you faster. And sometimes they'll reach out with contracting stuff. Sometimes they'll reach out with full-time stuff, get the word out. I also want to say it changes the energy of interviewing when you're like, I'm a hot commodity. My time is worth lots of energy and money. And like, so I think it's helpful to not feel, I sometimes feel desperate in interviews, but I feel less desperate when I am contracting. Yeah.
Cool. This one, if anybody ever wants to learn, I have it. If you're trying to like up the volume so getting the word out. Oh yeah, we get I already wrote all this. When it comes to getting the word out, we get most of our clients through what we call first and second degree connections. It's people who like see we have a mutual, they decide like an interesting connection, and then we get them later, right? So definitely like comb through your first degrees. Second degrees, you can ask people for intros, or you can hit them up. Usually when you have 25 mutual connects, it kind of like warms it up a little bit. But this is, if you break down where clients come from, it's like, I think over 50% come from that. So, I mean, it's like, what is a first degree, but still. Do it. That's where most of your leads will probably be. Show off your expertise. I have my Airtable Troy example on that, but basically I love this kind of thing. I think it's a really good way. I'll show all of these. But if you're trying to do cold outbound past this one, we have another deck for this. It was more about job search, but you can use the exact same method. It's my LinkedIn hack slides, and I will share them again if anybody needs them. Okay, I'm going to get on to Airtable Troy and showing off the expertise. I added another slide here. So Jade, you might not have seen it. Okay, these are all just like things that Airtable Troy does. Airtable Troy, as I mentioned, is like a unique person. He like doesn't really want to get on the phone or like do custom stuff. All he's done is like branded himself as like Airtable expert, like knows so much about these things. So I thought they were good stuff, right? Like you kind of think Troy knows what he's talking about based on the kind of repeated expert stuff. There's a lot of signals around having done quality work in the past. Okay, sorry. I actually tried to lower the expectations for people on these, right? Like saying you've done high quality work in the past is plenty in terms of like niche, right? Or like quality. You don't have to have testimonials yet. These are like all bonuses, right? Like if you can get a testimonial, even one, that's a bonus, but it's not required. If you have a reference, it could be someone you worked with in the past, you know, bonus, not required, but a way to show that you're impressive. List of services, I think this sort of falls under your stuff pierced around like focus. I think these are just things that Troy happened to have done before. And therefore, Lexi, this Leopard, see this list and go, oh, perfect. I need XYZ from that list. It makes it seem experienced, right? Or makes you seem experienced. You know, projects, case studies, anything you can show that you've done quality work somewhere, somehow in the past. And the more you can demonstrate it, amazing. Oh yeah, lots of freelance people, more on Upwork than like our community. It's like, yeah, I can do it. Yeah, I can do it. I'm like, well, do you have any proof at all that you can do this based on anything you've done in the past? And that is usually enough to get me to hire them. Okay. Expert is great. Signal that you've done quality work in the past. That's really key. I said hit the trends if you can, a little, right? That's what everyone's hiring for. That's what they're coming to us with, you know, ML, LLM, fine tuning. Just look at the keywords and say it back. And then listing out everything you've done before is a really good tip, right? Whether you're itemizing it like a menu or you're just writing to yourself everything you've ever done. It's a good exercise. And I also have another slide deck for that to ChatGPT yourself into a million keywords and stick them in some profile of mine. We did it. Thank you all. Oh, Veronica dropped.
Bye.
Lots of advice, lots of good times. Thank you all for coming. We will post this recording, and I posted the slides, and I can post other slides if people need them. Thanks, Jade, for doing this in your car. Okay. One.
So much.